Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today is Vlogoween day 15, and I'm getting a little bit of a late start. I apologize for that. It's Sunday, it's fun day. Our house likes to keep busy. I'm trying to think of all the colors I'm going to need here. Today I thought we would do a little thing on white birds. Like the joy of drawing white birds on white paper. Now, it doesn't have like the highest payoff. Like, it's not bright, it's not going to be neon, it's not going to shimmer and shine, but it is a good thing to learn how to do. You know what color I'm using up the most so far? Is black. I'm really using that one up a lot. I need to take some of these out and make an absolute mess with it, I'm afraid, to find what I am looking for. What am I looking for? The answers to the universe. I don't think they're in my colored pencils, though. Ooh, yeah. See? Look how small my black is getting. Oh, getting tiny. Okay, and then the other one I'm going to need that I haven't used in a while. Oh, I got him. Okay. And this is, good grief, it's like a pale gray too, warm gray too, okay? I know I have purchased a backup of this one years ago, so sometimes I really go through that one, but you can see like quite a few of my pencils are getting super tiny and they're falling into the bottom of the jar. Okay. So, drawing white birds. What do we need to know for this? One, it's hard to convey and do on camera. It's hard to photograph and post on Instagram. It's hard for people to see. Like, you can see color when you see color, but this is not that. So I'm going to be doing a white song sparrow, but there are other white birds that exist out there. The white bellbird is a fun one if you are interested in really trying to challenge yourself. That one has a wattle. If you're interested in birds with wattles, there's like the 3-wattled bellbird. He has more color. I'm doing this darker. Oh gosh, I don't even know if you can see this. And he's a lot of fun. They're the loudest birds in the world. Like, they're super, super loud. And they live in the Guineas and Venezuela and some of those like South America locations in the forests. Okay. So we are getting like the body of the bird, but I want to make sure there's a lot of leg here. And some feet, since I've been talking about legs and feet in my video. But when it comes to drawing white birds, it's going to be a lot of the same difference when it comes to drawing blackbirds. Is you really want to pay attention to the shadow and the light. So drawing what you see versus what your mind knows are two different things. When you go to draw a white bird, your mind goes, oh, it's white. But if you look closely, if you can color select through like Photopea or through a program like that, you can then see that there are subtle differences. Under the chin is going to probably be shadow. Now that could be a warm gray, that could be a cool gray, that could be a brown, like a really pale soft brown. Obviously the beak and the eyes are going to be color, and the feet probably are going to have a little bit of color. The feet on this one is like real pale pink, so I'm doing the Venetian red really, really lightly. And I'll probably do it with some of this guy. Oh gosh, Go Gadget eyeballs. I don't know, an ochre, an umber, one of those. I can never remember. It's just like my go-to favorite colors because that's all I have. So, in doing this, if you are going from a reference photo, I would say Make sure it's very, very detailed. You can zoom in. You may not want or need to draw a very big bird. It may be something like really tiny. Like it may not even be this big. It may be really small. But have that reference photo be as big as you can, so you can really see the detail of what is actually there. You can zoom in and see, okay, maybe there's a little bit of gray around the eyes, like real pale gray or a really soft brown. Within each bird, and admittedly there are less like all white birds than there are blackbirds, but we'll talk about blackbirds too at some point, because blackbirds are super fun. Well, any animal. Black is the absence of color, so there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. But white is all about the subtle details and what you can pick up and what you can see, and being very, very detailed in that, and making sure that the things you see, like you're able to see, you're able to pick up on all those little tiny subtle details, and then you can choose which ones you want to demonstrate and parade around in your illustration, which ones you really want to highlight. I have the teeny tiniest eyeball. I'm going to zoom in. I don't even think you can see this. I apologize. I don't think you can see any of that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so every little detail counts because there's so few of them. So in that respect, drawing white birds is less intensive than some other birds, just because there's less stuff to sort of color and draw in. But if you have a reference photo that gives you the information of what's going on within the fur, include as much of that as you can. And again, this is just being really soft, and we're denoting the shadow within the folds of feathers. That's all I'm doing. That sort of goes around and highlights the eye area. Like there isn't a lot. In fact, I may have to like erase some of this line. This is just a guide so you can see where the bird shape is. This is where it's really, really important to identify shape and form of the bird, because if that's one of the only pieces of information you have, like you've got to make sure it's spot on. So with birds like this, where less is more, the less becomes really, really important and integral and crucial that you get it accurate. You want this accurate, because this is your only chance at denoting some color for this bird and making sure that this bird is seen. Little pink. I am doing a little pink. I am not apologetic about it either. Just a little tiny bit. I also have a cool pink. This is the Caran d'Ache Luminescence. This is the ultramarine pink. It's a pale, cool pink. That was also a specific convenience color I purchased because I just had nothing like it, and I've needed it a few times and didn't have it. So creative licensing was taken. But again, with this, the devil is in the details. So if there's shadow around the wing, denote that. There's drop shadow here on the chest because of the shadow of the beak. You have to include that. There isn't going to be a lot of information. Now, I picked a bird that has splotches of warm browns and really dark sort of yellows on purpose, because I still want to be able to show people what I've done and what I'm creating. But if you want to do an all white bird, there are some online you can look up. But it's just, if you're working on like craft paper, or like Canson makes a black paper, if you're doing something like that, then absolutely bust it out. If you want to do birds that are really pale gray, those look really, really good on black paper. Sometimes they show up better. It's the bonus of having colored paper, a colored substrate to work on. is when you go to do a white subject matter, it really pops, unless you start doing context. So unless you're doing a little bit of background work and you place your bird within a tree, like if that's the thing you're doing, then you can use the leaves, the color of the green, to frame the bird and the branches. You can position them in a way that it highlights, really taking a look at line and how line directs your eye in a piece of art towards your main subject matter. You can do that with branches. Those are some more advanced drawing techniques. But every little thing is something when you're drawing and you're trying to work on different skill sets. So being able to draw white things on white paper is definitely, it's a skill set. I'm not going to be doing context. There won't be any leaves or anything around this bird. I'm just doing it as is. So I may have to do like a really zoomed in picture on Instagram when I'm done, so people can really see what it is I've drawn. I did this before. I did like a snowshoe rabbit, which I love them so much. But I did the whole thing with like this pale gray and you couldn't, and then I gave it dragon wings because, you know, you have to, and you couldn't see it. I could see it and I was very happy about it, but nobody else could see it. So as long as you're fine with what you've done, if you're doing it for you, then it doesn't matter what you're drawing. I just thought that talking about these a little bit, because there's a lot of white in animals. Like if you think about all the animals that exist in the world, a lot of them have some white within their fur. So if you're drawing zebras, pandas, things like that that have white spots, polar bears are really fun. You're sort of drawing the dirt and the dust and the shadow. That's what you're highlighting within your illustration. And you want to make sure that you're really color matching that and giving the viewer something to sort of look at. You know, whether it's the shadow or the shape. Some of these things, I might add a little bit of warmth just around here. I know polychromos makes really pale cool grays and they make really pale warm grays. You'll have to figure out, you know, through practice, through subject matter, which you prefer, what you need, what you have within a set. All that really, really helps. Because when you look at a white bird, it's not, you're not actually seeing like a lot of white. You're seeing other colors within it. So, but you know it's a white bird. Here's what, like what you see and what your brain knows to be there. Your brain says, oh, that's a white bird. But then you can pull colors out and what you actually see are the warmth and the cool and the grays and the browns and some of that. So you have to go with a really good reference, or if you're taking the photo, you know, best quality you can try and get. Be real patient with yourself. If you've never drawn like a white bird or an animal that has a ton of white, be really, really patient. Like if you're doing a plover, plovers have a lot of white. It can be really like surreal because they just have like that belly, and then you're like, okay, well I drew the belly, now what? I need my sepia and I don't know where it is. Let's see. Is it in here? Are you sepia? Oh, you look like indigo. This is what I'm talking about. So many colored pencils that are itsy bitsy. Oh, I'm making a mess now. This is why I'm always wearing my smock. I have more like pigment dots all over me from stuff that you would believe. Okay. So within the folded wing, we have some more color here, and it's dark. Again, I'm doing sepia. It's softer than black and adds that warmth of brown. It's a convenience color. You don't have to buy this color. You could take black, be very, very soft with it, and add a layer of the brown you do have, and you've made sepia. You can overlap your colors to create these colors. You don't have to rush out and buy them, especially if you're doing like a no buy or a low buy, or you're on a budget and stuff. Part of it's like time constraints. Like, what kind of time are you working with? On the weekends, I'm not working with the amount of time I wish I was working with. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Weekends are tough, folks. Like, I would love to spend 3 hours per illustration, but sometimes I have to like pick up the pace and hurry and rush, and I don't always like doing that, especially because this is such an enjoyable process. It's such a meditative thing. But if I don't have a lot of options, I don't have a lot of options, because family time. So, time management. Maybe this is more about time management. Let's do some browns. Yeah, so again, if you're doing like a pale gray bird, like a dove, a pigeon maybe, just really, you can make a viewfinder from a piece of cut paper. I think I have one here. I do, okay. This is why my desk is a mess. I have a little bit of everything within reach. You can make a viewfinder, and this is just a piece of thick white paper, but you could use anything to look at your reference photo and sort of isolate the colors and see what you're actually seeing. I mean, you could hold this up to a screen, you could hold this up to a printed photograph, and from there you can really start to see, yes, this is a white bird. My brain sees it as a white bird, but the individual colors that are popping out, that are coming out, they're gray, they're brown, they're like a bronze, they look more copper. Like, whatever color that you're starting to see sort of emerge from holding up a viewfinder, from isolating colors. You could do it any way you want to, but being able to pull those out and see those really, really helps, especially when we go to do blackbirds. We're going to do some blackbirds, at least one on film for discussion, because black in animals is also another crucial color. So we can do blackbirds next Sunday if you like. So, making sure you have the areas highlighted you want highlighted. You're trying to show the viewer what they're looking at. And what they're looking at is something that either camouflages in the wintertime, in the snow, or there's some white birds, like, it's not, is it close to albinoism? Some white birds, let's see, let me fact check some of this. I'm trying to read about some of this, but you know, there's like a lot of stuff to read. And again, this comes down to time. Okay, here we go. Let's see. There is an absence of melanin. There is albinism in some of these birds. So some of it can affect the cornea. Some does not affect other pigments. This is really fascinating. I'll link a little bit of this article if you're interested, that somebody posted on like a blog about it. Leucism is different from albinism. And this is sort of, what is this? It reduces the concentration to make paler birds, or eliminating them entirely to produce a white bird. And this can occur in some feathers, in some birds. I will pop up a couple pictures where they're talking about that. So there are some things with the feathers that are naturally occurring and some that just aren't. So you'll have to figure out what you want to say with that. If there's anything you want to say, if you want to highlight that unique character trait of a very specific bird within a subset of birds, like how specific you want to get, how inclusive, how interesting. Maybe you want the rarest of the rarest birds when you go to draw. Like it's all creative licensing in the end, you know? Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit of shape. Just a scotch with the wings. And I need to figure out how to fade that back in. So again, most of this should be fairly white. And you are seeing the shadows and the shape and the form within what I'm doing. So within the feathers overlapping each other, they'll create a shadow that will then be colored, if that makes some sense here. But again, it's all going to be very, very pale. So if white birds aren't your thing, if you're here for the color, and I love you for it, this may not be most relevant to you right now, but just keep in mind, if you go to draw an animal like a panda, you're going to want to know and note the dirt within the fur and the shadow within whatever light angle you have for a reference photo or a photo you've taken, or how you want to draw the panda in the sun. Like there is white on other animals. So maybe this isn't relevant now, but it could be relevant later, especially if you want to continue with doing animals and stuff. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for November. I really haven't. I've thought about things loosely, but I'm so like into the daily grind of what I'm doing here in October that like I'm having trouble coming up with what November's going to look like, because this is kind of time consuming. A video a day is a little time consuming, folks. It just is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So, and I appreciate each and every one of you for following along, for checking this out, for having questions and comments, and that's just lovely. I just love drawing, and if I'm going to teach you what I know and you're here to listen to it, that just makes my day, makes me happy. So blending in some darker, browner feathers. And again, this is a white song sparrow, but they do have some gray, like little patches and brown feather patches and different pieces, but you can see the bird start to sort of come together through the shadows, through the light, through what I'm showing you. It's still a white bird. Sort of. Like, it's a white bird. But you see how much faster this is going together, just because everything's super pale, so it's really light layers. You don't have to go super dark. This doesn't use up a lot of pencil either, which is nice if you're trying to conserve supplies or something, or you're out traveling and you have limited supplies and you want to follow along and draw some stuff. Birds are fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So it comes along really, really quickly when you go to do a white bird. I'm just not sure about that eye shape. I might tighten it up a little later. Let's see. Let's add a little bit more brown here. So, being able to identify. I think you've gotten like the sample and example I'm throwing out here. This is obviously an extreme example of a white animal. Let me show you something. Hold on. Here is my March of the Robots from 2022. This is the Strathmore 500 series mixed media soft cover. It is absolutely falling apart just from storage. Just think about that before you do a thing and purchase a thing. But I wanted to try and find some white to show you. Here, I can find some white in here. Here we go. Let me see this. Sort of. Maybe I'll zoom out a bit. Let's do that. Okay, so here is an illustration I did, and it is part watercolor with a base layer of colored pencil. Now this is a panda. We know pandas are white and black. However, they're not pure white. They're not white as snow. They're dusky, they're dirty, they're cool grays. There is variance within that. The white isn't pure white is what I'm trying to get at. And even if you don't need, like, here's like an ermine, a snow ermine. Can you see that even though it's white for the winter time, there's still warm grays and browns? Get the absolute, think of an animal you want to draw or a bird you want to draw. Get the absolute best possible reference photo, even if it's not one you're going to use, and really examine what the shadows look like. Here's a polar bear. Polar bears are a warm gray. They're dirty. They're dirty. Snow is dirty. Ice is dirty. The water can be very dirty. It's very warm. And then around their face, it gets darker. So it's inside of ears, eyes, nose, mouth. But you can see this is a white colored animal. But it's very dusky, dirty, warm, pale browns, pale grays. That is what it actually looks like. You could get a snow leopard, okay? Yeah, they're in the snow. Yeah, they blend in, but snow isn't always pure white. I apologize, a vehicle is going by. Or my neighbor's riding his lawnmower down the street. You never know. It's warm, it's cool, it's gray. It's warmer here. It's cooler in the face. There are variances within the white. So look for shadow, look for shape, look for where the sun highlights, where the sun touches it should be the brightest white. Everything else should be a little paler, a little darker. Again, here's a penguin. We know that like the chest of a lot of penguins is white. It's really gray. It's really a pale gray. I hope this video helps. I hope it pinpoints some things. I will link that sketchbook tour if you want to see that more in depth. But if you're drawing a white bird, get a good reference photo. You can make one of these, you can go on Photopea and you can isolate the individual colors and see it outside the original shape. So you can really identify what they are, what they look like. And then when your mind puts it together, it goes, yeah, that's a white bird. Yeah, that's a polar bear. All right, I hope this helps. I hope your day is absolutely wonderful, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.